if this movie had come out 2 years ago, our reaction would be, oh, it's unthinkable that a newspaper wouldn't print this information because the president told them not to. But now it doesn't seem so unthinkable anymore. And is that a total coincidence that this movie came out now and was made during this administration?
Well, I think the assault on the press and freedom of the press and the attempt to, by government to shut down a story is something that's risen over and over again.
Nobody expected a Hollywood legend and a late-night comedian to tag team a takedown so brutal it should have come with a warning label. The never-ending grudge match between Trump and Hollywood is like a reality show that refuses to get canceled. But when Meryl Streep and Jimmy Kimmel set their sights on Trump's reckless decision-making, it was less of a roast and more of a demolition. Kimmel brought the jokes, Meryl brought the gravitas, and together they carved into Trump's choices like a Thanksgiving turkey at Mar-a-Lago.
Right after a couple of good paragraphs, it's talking about northern New Jersey, draws the prober's eye, written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This was 14 years ago. They didn't do it.
It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie.
Hollywood and Trump have been locked in a never-ending showdown. One side armed with Oscars, Emmys, and punchlines, the other with Twitter tantrums and an inexplicable spray tan addiction. It's a rivalry for the ages, like Batman vs. Joker, but if Joker kept insisting he had the biggest inauguration crowd in history. Meryl Streep has been one of the biggest thorns in Trump's side, effortlessly dismantling his ego with the same grace she brings to her award-winning performances. Her speeches don't just critique, they eviscerate.
Up early on Twitter.
He sure is going to war with Hollywood's most celebrated actress. George, he went on a Twitter firestorm here. Take a look. It starts, Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, doesn't know me, but attacked last night at the Golden Globes. She is a Hillary flunky who lost big. For the 100th time, I never mocked a disabled reporter, would never do that, but simply showed him groveling when he totally changed a 16-year-old story that he had written in order to make me look bad. Just more very dishonest media. Enjoy.
And nothing gets under Trump's skin quite like a powerful woman refusing to bow to him. He once tried to dismiss her as overrated, a claim so absurd that even his own supporters must have blinked twice. Overrated. The woman who can play any character from Margaret Thatcher to a singing nun? If Meryl's overrated, then Trump's business acumen is legendary. But she's not alone in this fight. Enter Jimmy Kimmel, America's late-night watchdog, a man who has mastered the art of exposing hypocrisy with a smirk and a monologue.
I am the most overrated and most over-decorated, and currently I am the most over-berated actress who likes football of my generation.
If you're enjoying, please subscribe. Kimmel doesn't just roast politicians, he slow cooks them, letting their own words and actions marinate until they fall apart. He spent years dissecting Trump's chaotic presidency, pointing out the absurdity with the precision of a surgeon if that surgeon was holding a mic instead of a scalpel, and had zero patience for nonsense.
Do you know how many times Trump lied during his speech last night? 11 million. 3 fact checkers died adding it up. Not everyone was a fan of the King's speech. One gentleman on social media, I think summed it up pretty well. He wrote, "That may be the angriest, least compassionate, worst State of the Union speech ever made. It was an embarrassment to our country." Oh, wait, that was what Trump wrote about Biden's speech last year. Well, he topped it. There was plenty of Biden bashing last night. Trump said Biden was the worst president in history. He blamed him for the price of eggs. He said...
Kimmel sharpened his monologue, and Meryl prepared to do what she does best, deliver a performance so powerful it would have even Trump loyalists rethinking their life choices. Because if there's one thing that history has proven, it's that when Trump picks a fight with Hollywood, he loses. Badly. The night was rolling along like any other, audience laughing, cameras rolling, Jimmy Kimmel tossing out his usual monologue jabs, until suddenly, things took a turn. A shift. A moment of perfect comedic precision where the gloves came off and the punches started landing. And at the center of it all,
Trump told them that he thinks he might host the Kennedy Center Honor Show himself this year. He said he should do it because he's the king of ratings. That would be so great. Him hosting an award show, me at home tweeting insults while he does it. I mean, let's do this.
We don't need woke at the Kennedy Center. We don't need some of the shows were terrible. They're a disgrace that they were even put on.
Meryl Streep, the grande dame of Hollywood, standing beside him like a poised assassin, ready to deliver a kill shot with nothing but her eloquence and undeniable presence. Kimmel kicked things off with his signature smirk, slicing through the absurdity like a late-night executioner. He didn't need exaggeration. Trump's track record already read like rejected SNL material. His business failures, his bizarre obsession with crowd sizes, his never-ending list of lawsuits, it was all there. A comedy goldmine, gift-wrapped in delusion. Kimmel had spent years perfecting the art of turning Trump's own words against him, and tonight was no different. Each joke hit like a well-aimed dart, landing with a precision that had the audience roaring. And then Meryl stepped in. She didn't need to yell. She didn't even need a punchline. Her words alone carried the weight of 1,000 press conferences.
Trump was in Tuscaloosa on Saturday to take in the Alabama-Georgia football game. Here he is doing something that regular people do all the time, totally normal, throwing food at people behind a fence. Oh, well, here's a chicken finger for you, and you know, he treats people the same way they feed dolphins at SeaWorld. They're like, there you go. The king tossing bread to the peasants.
And just as the laughter reached its peak, Meryl followed up with a perfectly timed remark that turned the moment from funny to devastating. Humor anymore, it was a takedown so effortless that even Trump's most loyal defenders would have to pause before launching into their usual
all the time, totally normal, throwing food at people behind a fence. Oh, well, here's a chicken finger for you, and you know, he treats people the same way they feed dolphins at SeaWorld. They're like, there you go. The king tossing bread to the peasants.
And just as the laughter reached its peak, Meryl followed up with a perfectly timed remark that turned the moment from funny to devastating. It wasn't just humor anymore, it was a takedown so effortless that even Trump's most loyal defenders would have to pause before launching into their usual outrage. By the time they wrapped up, the audience wasn't just laughing, they were witnessing a masterclass in exposing absurdity, a combination of biting satire and undeniable truth, delivered by two of the sharpest voices in entertainment. The gloves were off, and Hollywood had once again reminded the world that when it comes to political absurdity, humor is the ultimate weapon. Kimmel had a gift, turning political absurdity into punchlines so sharp they left paper-thin egos in shreds.
President Trump doesn't typically fill out a bracket himself, but it seems like he might be regretting that now.
President Trump, did you fill out a NCAA March Madness bracket?
I didn't. I should have. Have there been upsets? A couple, right?
You laid down.
Did you talk with Pigs at
I didn't give you one, but maybe backdated, right?
The first thing that always comes to mind is, how can I cheat on this? And
Meryl, on the other hand, had the uncanny ability to elevate a moment beyond comedy. While Kimmel kept the audience engaged with relentless wit, she brought the kind of presence that made even the most ridiculous situation feel like a Shakespearean tragedy wrapped in an Oscar-worthy performance. Her words were poised, thoughtful, and yet cutting enough to make even the most spin-heavy political strategist break a sweat. She didn't need to shout or exaggerate. Her delivery alone carried the weight of truth, dressed up in class but laced with undeniable criticism. The magic of the night was in the balance. Kimmel threw fastballs of satire, breaking down Trump's latest chaotic decision with the precision of a late-night assassin, and Streep followed up with her signature elegance, delivering a line so devastating it might as well have come with a standing ovation. It was the kind of moment where laughter and realization hit at the same time. The comedy softened the blow, but the message still cut through. And that's the power of satire. People tune in for the jokes, but they leave with something more. Traditional political discourse? Dry, predictable. But comedy? Comedy sneaks past defenses. It makes people comfortable, then smacks them with the truth before they even realize what hit them. And in an era where misinformation spreads like wildfire and bad decisions are defended with all caps tweets, humor remains one of the strongest weapons against absurdity.
It's embarrassing and it's terrifying to put the target on your forehead, and it sets you up for all sorts of attacks and armies of brown shirts and bots and worse. And the only way you can do it is to feel you have to. You have to. You don't have an option. You have to. Stand up, speak up, act up.
By the time the segment wrapped, the audience wasn't just entertained. They were thinking. Laughing, yes, but also processing the reality behind the jokes. Because when humor is this sharp, it does more than amuse. It exposes, it educates, and, most importantly, it sticks. And just like clockwork, the meltdown arrived. The segment had barely wrapped before Trump's thumbs went into overdrive, firing off a frantic, all-caps social media post that read less like a response and more like a toddler furiously smashing the keyboard after losing a video game. Insults? Check. Wild conspiracy theories? Double check. An attempt to make it sound like he was the real victim? Oh, you know that was in there. It was a word salad only decipherable to those fluent enraged tweets, complete with unnecessary exclamation points and some very creative spelling choices. Predictably, he wasted no time calling Meryl overrated again, because apparently the three-time Oscar winner and literal industry icon still lives rent-free in his head. And Kimmel? According to Trump, the late-night host was flopping, despite ratings proving otherwise, a total failure. Judge is rich coming from a guy with multiple bankrupt casinos, and, of course, a leftist puppet, as if Kimmel taking jabs at both sides for years suddenly didn't count.
That under Biden, the federal government was spending $8 million on this.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
No, it's not. You know, you hear the president of the United States say we're spending $8 million to do sex change operations on mice. You assume, well, I'm sure he's exaggerating, but there must be something there. Turns out there's not. It's not real.
The irony in all of this, Trump wants celebrity approval, craves it, needs it like he needs spray tan refills. And yet, time and time again, he picks fights with Hollywood legends and loses spectacularly. This is a man who spent decades trying to be accepted by the entertainment elite, popping up in movies, rubbing shoulders with A-listers, even hosting a reality show. But the moment Hollywood turned on him, he turned on them like a jilted prom date, swearing they never wanted to go anyway. His supporters, of course, leapt into action, scrambling to make sense of the disaster. Some went with the classic defense. They're just jealous. Yes, because nothing says winning like whining on social media about people who aren't even thinking about you anymore. Others tried to argue that Streep and Kimmel were out-of-touch elites, which would be a solid argument if their guy wasn't literally a billionaire who lives in a gold-plated tower and throws steak-eating contests at his private club. Then came the truly desperate takes, the conspiracy theories. Maybe Kimmel was working for a secret Hollywood cabal. Maybe Meryl was a deep state operative trained to deliver devastating monologues. Maybe the whole thing was staged by the fake news media to distract from something Trump did, even though his worst enemy is, and always will be, his own words. But no matter how much his fans spun, the damage was done. The rant only made the segment go even more viral, ensuring that anyone who missed it the first time would now definitely watch. Every tweet, every defensive interview, every angry rant only reinforced the point. No one takes down Trump quite like Trump himself.
Fascinating day in this country we call America. Quick question for the audience. Did anyone else get a group chat invite from the National Security Advisor today? Just me? I know we shouldn't enjoy the fact that we have a confederacy of dunces running this country, but I'll be honest, I can't help it. I'm enjoying it right now.
And just like that, the internet did what it does best. Took Trump's meltdown and turned it into meme gold. Within minutes, Meryl vs. Trump and Kimmel claps back were trending, as Twitter users unleashed an avalanche of savage one-liners, side-splitting gifs, and the kind of brutal memes that make you wonder if the entire internet has a PhD in comedy. There was Meryl, photoshopped into a boxing ring, gloves on, with Trump flailing on the mat. A clip of Kimmel roasting him played on loop, captioned, "This is how you handle a heckler." And of course, Trump's own all-caps meltdown was turned into Mad Libs, where users filled in the blanks with whatever absurd insult they thought he'd say next. Late-night hosts wasted zero time jumping in. Colbert played Trump's rant verbatim, no edits, no punchlines, just letting the sheer ridiculousness speak for itself before sighing, yeah, that's the leader of a major political party. Seth Meyers did a full deep dive, complete with dramatic reenactments of Trump pacing around Mar-a-Lago, yelling at the TV. Even Saturday Night Live couldn't resist turning the whole thing into a sketch where Meryl, in full Oscar-weather glory, delivered a monologue so powerful it had Trump's staff fake clapping to keep him from firing them on the spot. This wasn't just a viral moment. It was a pop culture event, proving once again that when it comes to fighting comedians, actors, and the internet, Trump is always playing a game he can't win.
Nobody is better at eliminating schools than Donald Trump, and if he had filled out a bracket, it would be the most perfect bracket the world has ever seen.
And that's the thing. Trump may have spent years branding himself as a TV icon, but in the real world of pop culture, he's always on the losing end. Every time he picks a fight with Hollywood, comedians, or musicians, it backfires spectacularly. The man built his image on reality TV, yet somehow forgets that in the entertainment world, he's the punchline, not the producer. This moment wasn't just another celebrity verse, Trump showdown. It was a reminder of how powerful pop culture can be in shaping public opinion. Traditional news outlets report facts, sure, but humor and storytelling? They make people feel the absurdity of it all. Kimmel's jokes landed because they cut through the spin. Meryl's words carried weight because they exposed the ridiculousness with undeniable clarity. And the reason it stings? Trump wants to be admired by the very industry that keeps roasting him. He craves the approval of A-listers, late-night hosts, and award shows, yet every time he steps into the ring, he's outclassed by people who are simply better at this game than he is. He spent years perfecting the art of media manipulation, only to realize that against real entertainers, he's just another angry guest star on a show he can't control.
But I want to say thank you to President Trump. I mean, remember last year when it seemed like the Oscars were racist? That's gone. Thanks to him.
So now the real question is, does Trump take the bait? Will he storm back into the digital arena, thumbs furiously hammering out an unhinged response, or will his advisors beg him to let this one slide? History suggests he won't be able to resist. The man has the self-control of a raccoon near an open trash can. But at this point, what's left to say? He's already tried the overrated insult on Meryl before, and if he calls Kimmel a failing late-night host, it's just another recycled tantrum from the greatest hits of his grievance album. His supporters might rally around him, sure, but the damage is done. This moment happened, and millions saw it. More than just another Hollywood vs. Trump headline, it highlights a broader truth. Cultural voices can challenge power in ways politicians and journalists can't. Laughter cuts through the noise. Satire exposes the ridiculous. And no matter how many rants or rage posts come next, Trump can't control the fact that he became the joke again.